Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going deep into 17th century Dutch art. You guys sent in a ton of questions, and we're ready to tackle them with insights from art and history and art. It's less about what we see in these famous paintings and more about understanding the world that created them.
Right. It's like stepping behind the curtain. Economics, gardens, you name it. It
Yeah.
all feeds into how these masterpieces came to be.
Okay, so this historian, Johann Huizinga, he had this thought-provoking question. Does art give us a prettier picture of the past than, say, old letters or diaries would?
Yeah, fascinating question. And Huizinga was pretty straightforward with his take on it. He thought relying too much on paintings could give us this romanticized view of history.
Really? Because paintings, they capture everything, don't they? Like the good, the bad, even those interesting 17th century fashion choices.
Well, that's where it gets interesting. The book talks about this idea of sein sonder sein. Basically, it translates to semblance without being. Dutch painters were masters of illusion, making things look incredibly real, even if, they weren't meant to be taken literally.
Oh, so it's like they were creating their own reality on the canvas. No wonder it messes with how we see history. It's like those bowls of fruit in still life paintings. It looks so real. Like you could reach out and grab one. But were those fruits always so perfect in real life?
Precisely. Think of it like staging a photograph, everything carefully placed for effect. And the thing is, it wasn't just about fooling the eye. These paintings were reflecting the values, the ideas of their time.
So it's like looking at a carefully curated Instagram feed, but from the 1600s, you see what they want you to see.
Great analogy. And it highlights what's so cool about this book. It pushes us to look at these paintings, not just as like historical snapshots, but as puzzles. We've got to decipher them within their historical context.
That's where art historians come in, right? It's like detective work. They're not just looking at brushstrokes, but trying to understand the minds of the artists.
Absolutely. That's why the book stresses how important it is for historians and art historians to work together. They may not always see eye to eye.
Like that academic couple who argues footnotes over dinner.
Maybe. Haha. But the point is, by combining their expertise, we get this richer view of the past. Historians give us the social, the political backdrop, and art historians, they unpack that visual language, the symbolism.
Two heads better than one, even if those heads sometimes bump. Now, this book dives into some pretty big ideas about how Dutch art reflects its time. It talks about Hegel and how he interpreted all of this. Now, Hegel's not exactly known for simple explanations, right? What's the deal there?
We're not wrong. Hegel wasn't known for being brief. To put it simply, though, he saw Dutch art as deeply tied to the values of the Dutch Republic. Like, it was a celebration of realism and republicanism, which were huge EE back then.
So Hegel thought Dutch art was like this giant billboard for what the Dutch Republic was all about. Bold move, Hegel.
And get this, his ideas, they still spark debate even today. Like, does art shape how we see history, or does history shape the art? It's a chicken or egg kind of thing.
Makes you wonder, right? Did these Dutch landscapes inspire this national pride? Or was the pride already there, just like pouring out onto the canvases? It's so interesting.
And that leads us to another key point the book makes. Our understanding of Dutch realism, it's evolved. It's not just about seeing these paintings as mirrors reflecting reality.
Yeah, there's got to be more to it than that. Otherwise, museums could just hang up a mirror, call it a day.
Right. The book talks about how this traditional view, this mirror idea, it was challenged by art historian E. de Jong. He argued there's often this layer of what he called moral cognition woven into these paintings.
Moral cognition. So they weren't just painting what they saw. They were hinting at right and wrong, good and bad.
Exactly. De Jong showed that even simple scenes could have these moral messages, often using common sayings and emblems from back then.
So it's like those hidden Mickey Mouse heads in Disney movies. You got to know what to look for. I love that example in the book about the debate over Hendrik Verbruggen's painting of the soldier. Two totally different interpretations, right?
Yeah. On one hand, you've got this interpretation of it as a timeless allegory, with the soldier representing Mars, the god. But then there's another take that focuses on super specific details, the drum, the clothing, saying these details meant something very particular to someone in the 17th century.
It's those optical illusions where you see one thing or another depending on how you look. Speaking of details revealing a lot about Dutch life, let's move from these portraits to those marketplace scenes. So full of life, but the book suggests there's more to them than meets the eye.
Absolutely. Think of them like time capsules. Clues about Dutch society are packed in there, their economy, pride in their produce, even their love of botany. But first...
Marketplace scenes like time capsules. Okay, I'm hooked. Where do we start?
Well, the book hones in on this rise in vegetable market paintings. These weren't just random scenes, though. It's like they were practically propaganda for how awesome the Dutch Golden Age was, showing off their horticulture, how successful they were.
So it's like, hey, world, check out these amazing carrots, homegrown.
Exactly, a visual brag about their ingenuity and their prosperity, of course.
The book mentions this Metsu painting, vegetable market at Amsterdam.
Hmm.
He painted specific veggies, like down to the horn carrot. That's dedication. Did they even have magnifying glasses back then? It's like he's showing off every little root.
It shows how intertwined art and science were. Think about those herbals that were all the rage, beautifully illustrated books, all about plants. People were obsessed with the natural world, and artists, they captured that.
Like how we share our gardens on social media now. Behold my prize-winning zucchini. But, masterpieces instead of iPhone pics.
Precisely, sharing knowledge, achievements. But get this, the book makes this unexpected connection between those marketplace scenes and 17th century Dutch theater.
Whoa, really? I did not see that coming.
It might seem like a leap, but it makes sense. Both art forms were capturing the same energy, this vibrancy of Dutch society. The book mentions this play, Mortje, by Brodero. It's got these really vivid scenes of Amsterdam's markets.
Two sides of the same coin, then. Each one giving us a peek into daily life.
Exactly. And it reminds us that even when art forms seem totally different, they can be reflecting the same worries, the same big ideas, gives us a fuller picture. But let's switch gears for a sec. From the bustling markets to those peaceful Dutch landscapes.
Ah, those always make me feel so zen, like I need to book a flight to Amsterdam ASAP. But were they always going for total realism? Or did they ever, take some artistic liberties with those windmills and clouds and stuff?
You've hit on something really interesting about 17th century Dutch art, how they showed nature. Let's take clouds, for example.
Clouds, that seems a little, I don't know, fluffy for a deep dive, doesn't it?
Don't underestimate clouds. How Dutch artists painted them tells us a lot about how they approached realism. Some artists, like Man Velde the Elder, he was big on seascapes, they got pretty dramatic with their skies, even if it meant sacrificing a little realism.
Like those epic movie skies, where the clouds are practically characters.
Exactly. Drama, movement, even if they weren't perfectly true to life. Then you've got artists like de Koninck or Van de Kapel, known for incredibly accurate clouds. Like, you could practically identify the cloud type.
So this mix of, like, meteorological accuracy, but with a dash of artistic flair.
Right. But even the most realistic painters, they were still influenced by what other artists were doing. The book mentions this double-branched cloud motif. It pops up all over the place. Mannerist art, Jacob van Roostale's landscapes.
Wait, so you're saying those realistic-looking clouds?
Yeah.
They might be based on trends? That's blowing my mind a little.
It's true. Shows how even when you're going for realism, you're making choices, right? Emphasizing some things, leaving others out, and those choices often shaped by what came before you.
Like fashion. Even when you think you're being totally original, you're probably channeling some vintage look without even realizing it. But those clouds, they weren't just about looking pretty, right? Didn't they have symbolic meaning too?
Absolutely. The book talks about Nicholas Bertram. His clouds, they often reflect the themes of the painting. So you've got scenes with farmers, energetic clouds, billowing, like they're mirroring the effort. But paintings of ruins, the clouds are still somber, reflecting that quietness.
It's like the clouds are whispering secrets about what the painting really means.
In a way, yeah. They add this whole other layer. It makes you realize how much richer these paintings are when you understand the context, the choices the artist made, even the symbolism in a simple cloud.
It's like learning a whole new language, one that unlocks these deeper levels of the art and the world it came from. We've been circling around this idea of hidden meanings in Dutch art, but how much should we be reading into things? Are we talking full-blown conspiracy theories or...
It's a big debate amongst art historians. This book lays out the different sides really well. You've got those who think Dutch art is full of secret meanings, and those who say, hold on, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay, so hidden meanings. What are we talking? Like secret societies, coded messages, that kind of thing?
Not quite that dramatic, but you have folks like Josua Breen, the scholar. He believed Dutch art is full of this complex iconography, often referencing the Bible, literature. He said you need to understand these hidden meanings to really get the artwork.
So to him, it's like each painting is this puzzle, and every detail's a clue to some moral message.
Exactly. Intentional. A way to get these deep ideas across without being too obvious about it.
That's kind of awesome when you think about it. But what about the other side? Those who say we shouldn't read too much into it.
They argue that Bruin's approach, it can lead to overthinking things, finding meanings the artist never intended. Like, they warn against using those emblem books, those literary sources, to decode visual art too much.
Like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly. It's about this balance, looking for deeper meaning, but also appreciating the painting for what it is, the skill, the beauty of it, capturing a moment in time.
Which brings us to those genre paintings, the everyday life scenes. The book uses those as a prime example of this hidden meanings debate, right?
Definitely. Genre paintings have been a big focus for those seeking hidden meanings. Like, they'll say these ordinary scenes, they're actually packed with morals, social commentary.
Like a secret code, hidden in plain sight.
Right. They might point to a certain object, how someone's standing, and say, see, that's the message.
So every brushstroke could be a clue. I like it.
Yeah.
But the book presents the counter-argument too, yeah. Those who say, hey, maybe we're overthinking these everyday scenes.
Oh, absolutely. Those critics say paintings aren't emblems. Emblems are those images specifically designed to have a moral. They say we should appreciate genre paintings for what they are. Beautiful depictions of life,
A good reminder that sometimes a pipe is just a pipe. And a beautiful painting, just that.
Beautiful.
Exactly. Appreciating the artist's skill, light, texture, creating these worlds on a canvas. It reminds me of that quote from Van Hoogstraten. He said, "A perfect painting is as a mirror of nature. It shows us things that are absent as though they were present." That transportive power of art.
Beautifully said. And it highlights this constant back and forth between art imitating reality and art conveying these deeper ideas. 17th century Dutch art, it walks that line perfectly, a window into the past, but also a mirror reflecting how we see things. And our exploration of Dutch art, its ties to society, it doesn't stop there.
Oh, there's more.
There's always more to discover. The book also dives into these fascinating links between Dutch art and science, natural history. It's a world where artists, they weren't just observing nature, they were part of the exploration, documenting it all.
Intriguing. But we'll have to save that part of the journey for next time. Okay, so we're back, ready to explore how Dutch art and science intertwined back in the 17th century. I'm picturing those old illustrations, with the exotic plants and the scientists with their intrigued expressions. What are we diving into exactly?
Well, prepare to be amazed because we're talking about artists who weren't just depicting nature, they were active participants in exploring it and documenting it. This wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about scientific inquiry, about uncovering the secrets of the natural world.
That's so cool. It's like art and science were the ultimate power couple. So where do we begin?
Remember those incredible herbals we talked about? Those books about plants? Beautifully illustrated.
Yeah, like the coffee table books of the 17th century.
Exactly. They were gorgeous, but they weren't just pretty pictures. They show how fascinated the Dutch were by botany. And it was driven by this scientific curiosity, but also by economic ambition, These books, they were practical guides for identifying plants, understanding their medicinal properties, but they were also works of art, celebrating the diversity and beauty of nature.
So were these herbals unique to the Netherlands, or were other parts of Europe catching on to this art meets science trend?
The Dutch were really at the forefront, but their influence spread. The book talks about this whole international network of artists and scholars who were drawn to the Netherlands. They were like, that's the place to be. It was the center for intellectual and artistic exchange.
Like the Silicon Valley of the 17th century.
Yeah.
A hub for innovation and collaboration.
Exactly. A place where ideas were exchanged, discoveries were made, and you know how that knowledge spread. Through books, prints, and yes, even paintings. They weren't just studying nature, they were sharing it with the world. And the Dutch printers and publishers, they were crucial in that, creating these lavish, illustrated books that ended up all over Europe.
We've got to talk about Maria Sibylla Merian. Talk about a trailblazer. Traveling to Suriname in the late 1600s to study insects, that's hardcore.
Merian was an absolute pioneer. As a scientist and an artist, she wasn't content with just studying specimens in a lab. She wanted to see these creatures in their element, to observe them in the wild and record their life cycles in detail with incredible accuracy.
And she did all of this at a time when women weren't exactly encouraged to pursue science. She was a rock star.
Absolutely. Her book, Metamorphosis Insectorum Surinamensium, It's a masterpiece. It's scientific illustration, but it's also artistic expression. She captures the beauty of these insects, their colors, their patterns, but she's also documenting their life cycles with this incredible precision.
Her work feels so modern. It reminds me of those incredible nature documentaries we have now, the ones where you're just in awe of the natural world and the footage they capture.
It's that same feeling. Marion's work bridges this gap between art and science, appealing to our sense of wonder and our desire for knowledge. She shows us that scientific observation doesn't have to be dry and clinical. It can be beautiful, awe-inspiring even.
What a powerful reminder that art and science aren't at odds with each other. They can work together in amazing ways. So we've covered a lot, from the techniques Dutch artists use to create these illusions of reality to their fascination with nature. As we wrap up our deep dive into 17th century Dutch art, what are some key takeaways you hope listeners will walk away with?
I hope they come away with a new appreciation for the depth and richness of this art. These weren't just pretty pictures, they were reflections of a society trying to figure itself out, its relationship with nature, its place in the world. It was a time of immense artistic innovation, intellectual curiosity, just this pure fascination with the world around them.
It's like these paintings are glimpses into a world that's gone, and yet they still resonate with us today. These themes, art and science, commerce and culture, illusion and reality, we're still wrestling with them centuries later.
Exactly. And that's the power of art, isn't it? It transcends time. It connects us to the past, to the dreams and struggles of those who came before us.
So the next time you're face to face with a Dutch masterpiece, don't just glance at it. Really look at it. Ask questions. Let those brushstrokes transport you to another world, a world of beauty and discovery. Who knows what secrets you might uncover?
Happy exploring, everyone!